High Surveyor. Kethvar looked at the blue planet spinning slowly on his screen. After 200 years of studying alien species across the galaxy, he thought he had seen everything. But this little world in the outer spiral was different, not because it was dangerous or strange, but because it was so perfectly harmless. "Initial scan complete, High Surveyor," reported his assistant, a young Zephyrian named Yextal. "The dominant species appears to be mammalian bipeds. Average height 1.7 meters. No natural armor, no claws, weak bite force. They seem to have basic technology, radio waves, primitive satellites, some fusion power." Kethvar nodded, making notes on his datapad. "What about their behavior patterns?" "That's the interesting part, sir. They appear to be pack-bonding creatures, but not in any normal way. They keep smaller predators in their homes as companions. They call them pets. They feed them, clean them, and show extreme distress when these creatures die." Kethvar raised his eyebrows. In all his years studying species, he had never seen apex predators voluntarily care for other predators. "Show me." The screen filled with images from their spy drones. Humans walking small four-legged creatures on ropes. Humans picking up tiny predators and holding them close to their faces. Children playing with stuffed versions of deadly carnivores. Adults speaking to their pets in soft, gentle voices. "Look at this one," Yextal said, pointing to a video feed. "This human female found an injured bird. She took it to a special facility where other humans fixed its wing. They spent considerable resources saving one small creature that provides no benefit to them." Kethvar watched the footage with growing amazement. The human woman cried when the bird flew away. Actual tears of joy because a random animal was healthy again. "Sir, there's more," Yextal continued. "They create entertainment where they watch other humans pretend to be in danger or pain. But when the pretend danger becomes too realistic, they stop watching. They become upset by fictional suffering." "Fascinating," Kethvar murmured. "A species that evolved to care for others, even creatures that could harm them. No wonder they remained confined to one world. They're too gentle for the harsh realities of space." Captain Vexthol entered the observation deck, his forearms crossed behind his back. The Mantid captain commanded the military escort for their survey mission. His species had conquered 17 worlds in the last 50 years. "What have you found, High Surveyor?" "A delightful discovery, Captain. The locals are completely harmless. Bipedal mammals with strong emotional bonds and protective instincts toward weaker creatures. They've developed basic technology but seem incapable of aggressive expansion." Vexthol looked at the screens showing humans playing with their pets, helping injured animals, and crying at movies. "They appear weak." "Not weak, Captain, kind. There's a difference. They've simply evolved along a path that prioritizes cooperation and care over aggression. It's actually quite beautiful." The captain studied more footage. Humans sharing food with wild animals. Humans creating art that celebrated life and love. Humans organizing massive efforts to save endangered species, sometimes at great cost to themselves. "This is their military?" Vexthol asked, pointing to a parade of human soldiers. "Yes, sir. Notice how they march in perfect formation, but their weapons are designed for precision rather than destruction. They have rules about when and how they can fight. They call them laws of war." Vexthol laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Laws of war? Who creates rules for fighting?" "A species that finds violence distasteful, apparently. Their soldiers are trained to minimize casualties even among enemies. They provide medical care to captured opponents. They have entire organizations dedicated to preventing unnecessary suffering in conflicts. Incredible. They've made warfare gentle." Kethvar pulled up more data. Their popular culture reflects this too. Their heroes are usually characters who protect others, often sacrificing themselves for strangers. They write stories about redemption, forgiveness, and second chances. Even their children's entertainment teaches lessons about friendship and understanding. "What about their leadership?" "Democratic systems mostly. They choose leaders through voting, rather than combat or inheritance. Leaders who become too aggressive are often removed by peaceful means. They seem to prefer negotiation to confrontation in almost every situation." Captain Vexthol reviewed the military assessment data. Standard Zephyrian battle doctrine would be massive overkill against these creatures. They have no orbital defenses worth mentioning. Their space presence is minimal. A single battlecruiser could pacify their entire planet. "Sir," Yextal interrupted, "there's something else. They name their pets. Individual names for each creature. And when the pets die, they bury them with ceremonies similar to their own funeral rites. Kethvar shook his head in wonder. They mourn individual animals as if they were family members. Captain, I think we may have found the most peaceful species in the galaxy. Or the most pathetic, Vexthul replied. Any species that cries over dead pets won't last long once they meet real galactic civilization. Perhaps we could help them transition slowly. Their technology isn't entirely primitive. With proper guidance, they might become valuable members of the hegemony. Captain Vexthul considered this. The Zephyrian hegemony had always preferred voluntary cooperation over forced conquest. It was more efficient and cost less in resources. What do you recommend? Standard peaceful contact protocol, diplomatic approach, cultural exchange, demonstration of our superior technology. Once they understand the benefits of joining the hegemony, they'll likely agree voluntarily. A species this cooperative would never choose conflict over negotiation. And if they refuse? Kethvar looked at more images of humans cuddling with dangerous predators and crying at sad movies. Captain, look at them. They keep tigers as pets and weep at fictional stories. If they refuse our generous offer, we simply take what we need and relocate them to a suitable reservation world. They're far too gentle to mount any real resistance. How large a force would we need? For crowd control? A few thousand troops at most. We're not dealing with warriors here, Captain. We're dealing with a species that creates rules to make fighting less harmful and thinks apex predators make good companions. They'll probably surrender the moment they realize fighting might hurt someone. Captain Vexthul made his decision. Very well. I'll recommend a minimal peacekeeping force. No need to traumatize the adorable things with a full invasion fleet. Kethvar filed his official report. Species classification, Homo sapiens. Threat level, minimal. Recommendation, peaceful integration with reservation fallback. Special notes. Subjects display extreme pack bonding behavior extending to other species. High emotional intelligence but corresponding low aggression. Military capabilities limited by cultural aversion to causing unnecessary harm. Estimated resistance to hegemony authority, nearly zero. As the survey ship prepared to return to hegemony space, Kethvar took one last look at the peaceful blue world. Humans were gardening, playing with their children and caring for their countless pets. It would be almost sad to disturb such innocent creatures. But the galaxy was a harsh place. Better for them to accept hegemony protection than to face the real dangers out there. He had no idea that he was looking at the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever produced. He saw their kindness and missed the strength that kindness required. He saw their love for other creatures and failed to ask what happened to things that threatened what they loved. In 3 months, he would learn the answer to that question. By then, it would be far too late to change his assessment. 3 months later, the Zephyrian fleet hung in space above Earth like sleeping giants. Captain Vexthul had brought what the hegemony considered an overwhelming but humane force. 12 ships, including 2 light cruisers and a diplomatic vessel. For a species that cried at movies and kept predators as pets, it seemed like massive overkill. Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the surface, reported Communications Officer Telmar. They appear to be attempting peaceful contact in several languages. Patch it through. The main screen filled with the image of a human female. She had graying hair and kind eyes behind thin spectacles. She wore simple clothes and had a small 4-legged creature sitting calmly beside her. Greetings, she said in carefully pronounced galactic standard. I am Dr. Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth Government. We welcome you to our system and hope we can establish peaceful relations. Captain Vexthul studied her. Even under what must be tremendous stress, facing alien ships in her planet's orbit, she remained calm and friendly. The small creature beside her, what did they call them? A dog, wagged its tail and looked directly at the camera with apparent curiosity rather than fear. Dr. Chen, Vexthul replied, I am Captain Vexthul of the Zephyrian hegemony. We come in peace to offer your people a place in galactic civilization. Over the following days, human delegates arrived at the diplomatic vessel. Dr. Chen led the team, along with various specialists and, remarkably, the small dog from the first transmission. The humans called it a therapy animal and explained it helped reduce stress during difficult conversations. High Surveyor Kethvar found the humans exactly as his initial assessment had predicted. They were curious, cooperative, and almost painfully earnest. They shared their art, music, and literature with genuine enthusiasm. They asked thoughtful questions about other species and seemed genuinely excited about the possibility of galactic contact. "This is one of our greatest literary works," Dr. Chen explained, handing Kethvar a thin book. "It's about a man who learns to love Christmas and treat people with kindness." Kethvar read the summary. "A story about redemption and the power of compassion to change hearts. Typical human entertainment. Gentle lessons about being nice to each other. And this represents your military philosophy?" asked Captain Vexthul, reviewing human military manuals. "We have something called the Geneva Conventions," explained Colonel Martinez, the human military representative. "Rules that govern how wars should be fought to minimize suffering. You have rules for fighting?" "Of course. War is terrible, but if it must happen, we should try to keep it as humane as possible. We prohibit targeting civilians, require medical care for prisoners, and have strict guidelines about proportional response." The Zephyrians exchanged glances. A species that made warfare gentler was even more harmless than they had imagined. "Your demonstration yesterday was impressive," Dr. Chen said to Captain Vexthul. They had shown the humans a small display of Zephyrian technology: energy shields, advanced propulsion, defensive weapons that could disable rather than destroy. "A minor example of what hegemony membership offers," Vexthul replied. "Protection, advanced technology, access to galactic trade networks. And what would membership require? Simple cooperation. You would contribute resources to the common good, accept hegemony guidance on planetary development, and allow us to establish administrative facilities here." Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Could we have some time to discuss this among our people?" "Of course. We understand this is a significant decision." What the Zephyrians saw during the next week confirmed every assumption. Humans held global discussions through their communication networks. They debated peacefully, considered all options, and showed genuine concern for their planet's welfare. News broadcasts showed humans caring for their families, their pets, their environment. They saw protests, but even those were remarkably civil, people holding signs and singing songs rather than fighting. The humans even organized cultural exchange events. Human children drew pictures of spaceships and aliens as friends. Artists created sculptures celebrating peaceful contact. Musicians composed songs about unity among the stars. "They really are adorable," commented Yextal, watching human children teach the therapy dog new tricks while their parents discussed interstellar diplomacy. "Almost too cute to be real," agreed Kethavar. "Look at this footage from their entertainment centers. They have facilities where they pay to see other humans pretend to be in danger. But the humans watching become upset if the fake danger looks too realistic." Captain Vexthul reviewed the cultural data with growing confidence. These creatures were exactly as harmless as they appeared. Their military demonstration had focused entirely on precision and damage control. They showed off medical facilities, rescue equipment, and defensive systems. When asked about offensive capabilities, they seemed almost embarrassed. "We prefer to avoid conflict whenever possible," Colonel Martinez had explained. "Our military exists primarily for disaster relief and peacekeeping." Finally, Dr. Chen requested a formal meeting. The human delegation arrived as before, complete with the therapy dog, which had apparently become something of a mascot. The creature seemed completely comfortable around aliens, further proof of human adaptability and gentleness. "Captain Vexthul," Dr. Chen began, "we appreciate the hegemony's offer, but we must respectfully decline." The Zephyrians were genuinely surprised. "May I ask why?" Vexthul asked. "We're not ready for full galactic integration. We need more time to develop as a species. We'd prefer to continue contact through cultural and scientific exchange, but we want to maintain our independence." Kethavar leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, you understand that this is an enormous opportunity? The protection and advancement we offer? We understand. But freedom to choose our own path is important to us." Captain Vexthul felt a flicker of annoyance. He had expected immediate acceptance from such a cooperative species. "The galaxy can be dangerous for unprotected worlds. We're willing to take that risk." "Dr. Chen," Vexthul's voice became more formal, "I'm afraid the hegemony's offer isn't entirely optional. Your system contains resources vital to galactic civilization. We can offer generous compensation and comfortable relocation to a beautiful world more suitable for your species." The change in Dr. Chen's expression was subtle, but noticeable. "Relocation?" a peaceful transition. We would ensure your culture and lifestyle are preserved. Think of it as protective custody while we properly develop your world's potential. Dr. Chen looked at her fellow delegates. Colonel Martinez's hand moved unconsciously toward his weapon before stopping. The therapy dog, which had been calm throughout every previous meeting, suddenly stood and moved closer to Dr. Chen, watching the Zephyrians with new alertness. I see, Dr. Chen said quietly. So our choice is voluntary cooperation or forced relocation. We prefer cooperation, but yes, those are the options. Dr. Chen stood slowly. Then we need to return to Earth to discuss this development with our people. Of course, but please understand, Dr. Chen, that prolonged resistance would be pointless and costly. We have no desire to cause unnecessary suffering. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Kethvar noticed something different. The humans' polite smiles remained, but their eyes had changed. The therapy dog stayed alert, watching the Zephyrians as if seeing them clearly for the first time. Dr. Chen, Kethvar called out, I hope you understand we truly want what's best for your people. Dr. Chen paused at the airlock. I'm sure you believe that, she said. But you might want to reconsider your assessment of us. What do you mean? You've been watching us for months. You've seen our art, our entertainment, our daily lives. But I wonder, did you study our history? Before anyone could answer, the humans were gone, leaving the Zephyrians with an uncomfortable feeling that something important had just changed. Something they hadn't anticipated and didn't understand. Captain Vexthul dismissed the feeling. What could a species of pet-loving, movie-crying gentle creatures possibly do that would concern the hegemony? He was about to find out. Captain Vexthul decided to make the humans understand their situation with a gentle demonstration of force. Earth Defense Force Station Olympus hung in orbit above the planet, a clear symbol of human military capability. It would be the perfect target to show the futility of resistance without causing excessive casualties. Sir, we're ready to begin the demonstration, reported Tactical Officer Zexman. All weapons are set to disable rather than destroy. Capture nets deployed, suppression fields charging. Excellent. Remember, we want to minimize harm. These creatures may be stubborn, but they're not evil. A show of superior force should convince them to see reason. Vexthul opened a communication channel to the station. Attention Earth Defense Force Station Olympus. This is Captain Vexthul of the Zephyrian hegemony. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all personnel. We will then disable your station to demonstrate the futility of resistance. This is not an attack, it is an educational exercise. The response came from a calm human voice. This is Admiral Marcus Torres commanding Station Olympus. Captain, are you declaring war on humanity? Certainly not, Admiral. We seek peaceful resolution. This demonstration will help your people understand the reality of their situation. I see. Thank you for the warning, Captain. It's very considerate of you. Something in the human's tone bothered Vexthul, but he couldn't identify what. The Admiral sounded almost amused rather than frightened. Beginning evacuation procedures, Admiral Torres announced. All non-essential personnel to escape pods. Medical teams to emergency stations. The Zephyrians watched as small craft launched from the station, carrying humans to safety. It confirmed their assessment. These people prioritized life above property or pride. A rational, peaceful species. Evacuation complete, sir, reported Zexman after exactly 29 minutes, detecting only minimal crew aboard the station. Begin the demonstration. The Zephyrian ships moved into attack formation. Their weapons, designed for crowd control and infrastructure capture rather than destruction, began targeting the station's critical systems. Suppression fields disabled the station's weapons. Capture nets wrapped around key sections to prevent debris from falling toward Earth. Precision energy bursts knocked out power systems and life support. The station's defenses fired back, but their weapons seemed almost primitive compared to Zephyrian technology. Within minutes, the great orbital fortress was dark and powerless, held in place by Zephyrian capture fields. Casualties? Vexthul asked. Minimal, sir. 47 humans confirmed dead. Approximately 200 wounded. The humans fought bravely but were clearly outmatched. Vexthul felt satisfied. The demonstration had achieved its purpose while keeping loss of life to acceptable levels. Surely now the humans would see reason. He opened a channel to Earth. Dr. Chen, this is Captain Vexthul. As you can see, resistance is futile. We regret the necessary loss of life, but we hope this demonstration convinces your people to accept our protection peacefully. Dr. Chen's face appeared on screen. She looked older than before, tired and sad, but there was something else in her expression that Vexthul couldn't identify. "Captain," she said quietly, "you have killed 47 of our people. I deeply regret the necessity, but surely you understand now that continued resistance will only lead to greater losses." "Oh, we understand perfectly." Dr. Chen's voice remained calm, but something had changed. "Captain, may I ask you something?" "Of course. In all your observations of humanity, did you ever study our history?" "Your recent history, yes. Your cultural development, your social evolution. I mean our older history. Our wars, our struggles, our survival." High Surveyor Kethvar interjected from his station. "Dr. Chen, we studied your current civilization. A species that creates rules for warfare and cries at fictional stories presents no significant threat." Dr. Chen's expression shifted slightly. "Was that a smile?" "Rules for warfare. Yes, we have those." "Captain, do you know why we created rules for war?" "Because you find violence distasteful," Vexthul replied confidently. "No, Captain. We created rules for war because we discovered we were very, very good at it. Too good. So good that we had to make rules to prevent ourselves from destroying everything." The communication ended abruptly. Vexthul stared at the blank screen, confusion growing in his mind. "Sir," Communications Officer Telmar called out, "we're detecting massive activity across Earth's surface." "What kind of activity?" "Industrial facilities going to emergency production. Civilian infrastructure shifting to, I'm not sure what to call it, sir. Military applications? But these were supposed to be civilian facilities." High Surveyor Kethvar pulled up the new data streams. What he saw made no sense. The gentle humans they had observed for months were transforming their entire civilization overnight. Factories that made consumer goods were now producing weapons. Research facilities were sharing data at unprecedented rates. Transportation networks were moving resources with military efficiency. "Sir, we're also detecting some unusual broadcasts from Earth's surface," Telmar continued. "What kind of broadcasts?" "They appear to be historical documentaries about human warfare. They're broadcasting them on all frequencies, including those we use for fleet communications." "Put it on screen." The display filled with images that made the Zephyrian crew fall silent. Humans fighting with desperate fury, massive armies clashing across continents, cities burning, weapons that could destroy entire regions, humans charging machine gun nests, humans fighting to the death rather than surrender, humans surviving in conditions that would kill most galactic species. "This can't be accurate," Kethvar whispered. "These are the same creatures that keep predators as pets." "Sir," Zexmine called from Tactical, "we're detecting movement from Earth's orbital space. Ships are launching." "What kind of ships?" "Unknown configuration. They're not matching any of our intelligence on human spacecraft." Vexthul watched as sleek vessels rose from Earth's atmosphere. They moved with purpose and precision that his previous assessment said humans didn't possess. These weren't the fumbling steps of a primitive species. These were the movements of experienced spacefaring military forces. "Captain," Telmar interrupted, "incoming transmission from Earth Defense Force Command." "Put it through." Admiral Torres appeared on screen. Behind him, Vexthul could see a military command center buzzing with activity. The Admiral's uniform was different now, more formal, with insignia that suggested much higher rank than a simple station commander. "Captain Vexthul," Torres said, "this is Admiral Marcus Torres, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. I want to thank you for your demonstration. Admiral, you've taught us something very important about your people. You're careful, methodical, and you prefer minimal casualties. That tells us you're not used to fighting species that fight back effectively." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that in 47 years of military service, I've never seen an invasion force that warned their targets before attacking. You're either remarkably honorable or completely inexperienced with real warfare." Torres paused, and when he continued, his voice was cold as deep space. "Captain, you have killed 47 human beings. You attacked a military installation of the Terran Defense Force. Under the laws of war that you find so amusing, you have committed an act of war against humanity. Admiral, this was merely a demonstration. The demonstration is over." "Captain, Dr. Chen asked if you studied our history. Let me give you a quick lesson. We are a species that survived ice ages, Volcanic winters, plague, and predators that could eat us. We are a species that fought 2 global wars and still managed to step back from the brink of extinction. We are a species that made rules for war because without those rules we would kill everything, including ourselves. The Admiral leaned forward. You wanted to see what humans do when threatened. You killed our people to prove a point. Congratulations, Captain. You're about to get a very thorough education in human warfare. And Captain? Yes? The Geneva Convention only applies when both sides follow it. You just declared that you don't. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in stunned silence. Outside their viewports, more human ships were rising from Earth's surface, and they were no longer hiding what they really were. 2 weeks after the attack on Station Olympus, Captain Vexthal was learning that every assumption about humans had been catastrophically wrong. The primitive mining vessels approaching his fleet weren't miners at all. They were warships disguised, so perfectly that his best sensors had missed their true nature. Sir, incoming projectiles from the human vessels. Tactical Officer Zexman reported, his voice tight with stress. Impact in 30 seconds. Raise shields. Return fire with suppression weapons. The human projectiles struck with devastating force. But these weren't normal weapons. They were crude, brutal things that ripped through Zephyrian shields like they weren't there. Worse, they seemed designed specifically to cause maximum damage rather than disable. Shield Generator 3 is offline, Zexman called out as the ship shuddered. They're targeting our non-lethal weapon system specifically. How is that possible? Unknown, sir. It's like they studied our defensive patterns and designed weapons to counter them. High Surveyor Kethvar worked frantically at his station, pulling up everything they had recorded about human behavior. Nothing made sense anymore. These same creatures who cried at sad movies were now using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. Captain, Communications Officer Telmar called out. The humans are broadcasting something to our fleet. Put it through. Admiral Torres appeared on screen, but he looked different now. Gone was the calm diplomat who had spoken so reasonably during the demonstration. This was a military commander in wartime, and his eyes held no mercy. Captain Vexthal, this is your final warning. Withdraw from Terran space immediately, or face the full consequences of your actions. Admiral, we are still prepared to negotiate. The time for negotiation ended when you killed our people. You wanted to educate us about superior force. Allow me to return the favor. The transmission ended, and immediately the human attack intensified. Ships that had appeared as simple cargo vessels revealed weapon systems that made no sense. Projectile weapons that should have been obsolete still functioned perfectly in space. Energy weapons that seemed to violate several laws of physics. Most disturbing of all, ramming attacks where human ships deliberately crashed into Zephyrian vessels. Sir, Zexman said with obvious confusion, they're using suicide tactics. The crew of that mining ship deliberately destroyed their own vessel to take out our frigate. That's impossible. They care too much about individual life to... Sir, incoming transmission from the destroyed ship. The main screen filled with the image of a human woman in a damaged uniform, speaking calmly as her ship broke apart around her. Tell your High Surveyor that humans don't just pack bond with pets, alien scum. We pack bond with each other. My brother was on Station Olympus. The transmission cut to static. Captain Vexthal stared at the screen in horror. These weren't the gentle creatures from his intelligence reports. These were something else entirely. Sir, Kethvar called from his station. I'm analyzing the human broadcasts about their history. Captain, we may have made a serious error in our assessment. What kind of error? They weren't showing us their current civilization. They were showing us their attempt to become better than what they were. But underneath. Kethvar's voice trailed off as more data flowed across his screens. Human wars that lasted generations. Weapons that could destroy entire continents. Survival strategies that involved eating their own dead when necessary. A species that had not only survived ice ages and volcanic winters, but had thrived during them. Sir, I'm detecting more human vessels approaching from the outer system, Telmar reported. But these readings don't make sense. What do you mean? They're not ships, sir, they're asteroids. The humans have somehow mounted engines on asteroids and are using them as weapons. Vexthul watched in disbelief as mountain-sized rocks accelerated toward his fleet under their own power. Each one had enough kinetic energy to destroy a battlecruiser, evasive maneuvers, full power to engines. The Zephyrian fleet scattered, but the asteroids tracked them. Worse, the rocks were communicating with each other, coordinating their attacks with tactical precision. "Captain," Zexman called out, "sensors indicate those asteroids have human crews aboard them." "They put people inside flying mountains?" "Yes, sir. They're riding them down on us." A transmission came from one of the asteroids. A human male appeared on screen, grinning wildly as debris floated around him in what was clearly a damaged and depressurizing command center. "Hey there, alien friends. Name's Mike Henderson, formerly of the Asteroid Mining Guild. We heard you folks needed a demonstration of human engineering. Hope you like our new toys." The transmission showed other humans working calmly around him, making final adjustments to weapon systems even as their improvised asteroid ship broke apart from the stresses of acceleration. "You people are insane," Vexthul shouted at the screen. "Buddy, we're the species that survived on a planet where everything wanted to kill us. This is just Tuesday for us." The asteroid ship struck the Zephyrian fleet with devastating effect, but worse than the physical damage was the psychological impact. These humans were willingly riding asteroids into battle, laughing as they did it. "Sir," Kethvar said quietly, "I think I understand now what we missed." "What?" "They do cry at movies and keep predators as pets. But Captain, what kind of predator can tame other predators? What kind of species survives on a world so dangerous that apex predators become house pets?" Before Vexthul could answer, another transmission came through. Dr. Sarah Chen appeared, on screen, but she was no longer in a diplomatic facility. She stood in what appeared to be a military command bunker, surrounded by humans working with efficient, deadly purpose. "Captain Vexthul," she said calmly, "you asked why we have rules for warfare. Let me explain. We created the Geneva Convention because we discovered that when humans fight without rules, we don't stop until everything is dead. We made laws about proportional response because human proportional response is typically kill everything that might be a threat." She paused, and her expression became colder than space. "You killed 47 of our people to make a point. Our response will be proportional to what you taught us about the value of life in this galaxy. Dr. Chen, please." "Captain, you studied our culture, but not our history. You saw our love for life but missed why we value it so highly. It's because we know how easily it can be taken away. Every human alive today is descended from survivors of disasters that would have ended most species." The transmission shifted to show images from Earth. Massive factories working at full capacity. Orbital shipyards constructing vessels of unprecedented size. Humans working with the focused intensity of a species that had been pushed too far. "We tried to be better than our ancestors," Dr. Chen continued. "We tried to evolve beyond our violent past, but you've reminded us why our ancestors survived when nothing else could." The final image was of Admiral Torres standing before a massive display showing the positions of both fleets. "Captain," the Admiral said, "you wanted to demonstrate superior force. Consider this our counter-demonstration. You have 6 hours to withdraw from our system. After that, we stop playing by hegemony rules and start playing by human rules." The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in terrified silence. "Sir," Zexman whispered, "what are human rules?" Kethvar looked up from his analysis of human history, his face pale with horror. "Complete extinction of threats," he said quietly. "They don't just defeat enemies. They make sure those enemies can never threaten anyone again. Ever." Captain Vexthul stared at the human fleet approaching his position, and finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. They hadn't discovered a species of gentle pet lovers. They had awakened something that had been deliberately sleeping, and now it was very, very awake. 1 month after Captain Vexthul's demonstration at Station Olympus, the survivors of his fleet hung in space like broken toys. Of the 12 ships that had arrived to pacify the gentle humans, only 4 remained operational. The others drifted as debris fields or had been captured entirely by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. "Sir?" Communications Officer Telmar said quietly. "Incoming transmission from the human fleet." Captain Vexthul looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. His ship's weapons were gone, destroyed by human tactics that violated every assumption about civilized warfare. Worst of all, his request for reinforcements had been denied. The Hegemony Council had declared the entire operation an unacceptable loss and ordered the surviving ships to withdraw immediately. "Put the transmission through." Admiral Torres appeared on screen, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Dr. Sarah Chen, and beside her sat the same small dog that had attended all their early diplomatic meetings. The animal looked completely calm, as if orbital warfare was perfectly normal. "Captain Vexthul," Admiral Torres said, "I'm prepared to offer terms for your withdrawal." "Terms?" Vexthul tried to keep his voice steady. "Admiral, surely we can reach a reasonable agreement. This conflict benefits no one. The terms are simple. Complete withdrawal from Terran space. Formal apology to the families of the 47 people you murdered. Full compensation for the damage to Station Olympus. And a guarantee that no hegemony forces will approach our system again. Those terms are reasonable, but the formal apology is not negotiable." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "Captain, do you understand what you've done? You didn't just attack a military installation. You attacked our people, our pack." Vexthul looked at the small dog beside her. It seemed impossible that the same species that kept such harmless creatures could have destroyed most of his fleet in a month of fighting. "Dr. Chen, your people fought with unexpected ferocity. We clearly underestimated your capabilities." "No, Captain, you underestimated our motivations." She reached down and petted the small dog, which wagged its tail happily. "You saw us caring for our pets and thought we were weak. You never asked the right question." "What question? What happens to anything that threatens our pack?" High Surveyor Kethvar spoke from his station, his voice hollow with exhaustion and horror. "Dr. Chen, we studied your culture extensively. Your art, your entertainment, your social structures. Everything indicated a peaceful, cooperative species." "And we are," Dr. Chen replied. "We're probably the most cooperative species you'll ever encounter. We work together, we care for each other, we even adopt other species as family members. But cooperation isn't weakness, Surveyor. It's strength." She gestured to the display behind her, showing images of the recent battles. Human ships working in perfect coordination. Crews sacrificing themselves without hesitation to protect others. Entire civilian populations contributing to the war effort with unified purpose. You saw individual humans crying at sad movies and thought we were emotionally fragile. You never considered that a species capable of such empathy might feel equally strong emotions about protecting what they love. Admiral Torres continued the explanation. "Captain, you made several critical errors in your assessment. First, you assumed that kindness equals weakness. Second, you thought our rules of war meant we weren't good at fighting. Third, you believed that emotional attachment made us vulnerable. Were those not logical conclusions? Under normal circumstances, perhaps. But you missed the fundamental truth about humanity. We didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being aggressive. We became dominant by being the thing that other dominant species learned not to mess with." Dr. Chen picked up her dog, holding it gently while she spoke. This little creature's ancestors were wolves. Apex predators that ruled vast territories. Now they live in our homes and depend on us for survival. You saw that and thought it made us weak. You should have asked how we convinced apex predators to become our willing servants. Kethvar understood now, but far too late. You didn't domesticate them through force. No, we convinced them that being part of our pack was better than being alone. We offered them food, shelter, medical care, and companionship in exchange for loyalty. It was such a good deal that they chose to evolve alongside us. Admiral Torres smiled grimly. "Captain, you've been negotiating with the species that convinced wolves to become dogs. We're very good at making cooperation seem like the attractive option. But when cooperation fails..." Dr. Chen's voice became cold. "We're equally good at making the alternatives unacceptable." A new display activated, showing the current status of the Zephyrian fleet. Ship positions, damage assessments, crew casualties. Information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. "How do you have our tactical data?" Vexthul demanded. "We've been inside your computer systems for weeks," Admiral Torres replied casually. Your crew includes several individuals who've been feeding us information since the first day you arrived. That's impossible. My crew is completely loyal. Your crew is terrified, Captain. And when people are terrified, they look for ways to survive. We offered them the same deal we offered the wolves. Join our pack and we'll protect you. Vexthul stared in disbelief as several of his own officers stood up and removed their sidearms, placing them on the floor. His communications officer, his navigation specialist, even his chief medical officer. "We're sorry, Captain," Telmar said quietly, "but they made it clear what happens to things that threaten their pack. We chose to become part of it instead." Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. "Captain, this is what you never understood about us. We don't just fight our enemies. We convert them. We make them want to join us. It's much more efficient than killing them all. Though we're perfectly capable of that too," Admiral Torres added, "as your fleet discovered." The full scope of the disaster became clear to Vexthul. The humans hadn't just defeated his forces militarily. They had turned his own people against him through a combination of terror and tempting alternatives. It was exactly the kind of sophisticated psychological warfare that his intelligence report said humans couldn't possibly possess. "Captain," Dr. Chen said gently, "would you like to see the reports we're sending to the rest of the galaxy?" A new display showed a Galactic Council chamber. Alien representatives from dozens of species watched recordings of the battle for Earth. But these weren't the sanitized military reports Vexthul expected. They were detailed documentaries about human culture, human history, and human capabilities. "We're not hiding what we are," Dr. Chen explained. "We're showing everyone exactly what you discovered, that humans are a pack-bonding species that will do absolutely anything to protect their pack. That we evolved on a world so dangerous that we had to become more dangerous than everything else just to survive. We're also showing them how we treat our friends," Admiral Torres added. The display shifted to show human aid missions, rescue operations, and diplomatic initiatives. "We're very good friends to species that don't threaten us. But to species that do threaten us," Dr. Chen's voice became deadly quiet. "We're the thing that apex predators have nightmares about." The final transmission came from the Galactic Council itself. An elderly alien that Vexthul recognized as the council speaker appeared on screen. "Captain Vexthul," the speaker said formally, "the Galactic Council has reviewed the reports from the Terran system. The Zephyrian hegemony is hereby ordered to issue formal apologies and pay full reparations to the human government. Furthermore, Terran space is classified as sovereign territory under Council protection. But, Speaker, the decision is final, Captain. The humans have demonstrated both their defensive capabilities and their diplomatic maturity. They are now under Council protection as a developing spacefaring civilization." The transmission ended, leaving Vexthul in stunned silence. In 1 month, the species he had dismissed as adorable pets lovers had not only defeated his fleet, but gained recognition as a protected council member. Dr. Chen stood up, still holding her small dog. "Captain, we told you at the beginning that you might want to reconsider your assessment of us. We're exactly what we appear to be, a cooperative, empathetic species that values life and relationships above all else." She paused, and her smile became terrifying. "We just happen to be very, very good at protecting the things we value." Admiral Torres delivered the final message. "Captain, your ships will be escorted to the edge of our system. Your wounded will receive medical care and your dead will be returned with honor. We don't hold grudges against enemies who learn from their mistakes. And if we hadn't learned, then you would have discovered why humans are the only species that had to create rules to limit how thoroughly we destroy our enemies. Captain, we didn't evolve to be predators. We evolved to be the thing that predators evolved to avoid." As the broken Zephyrian fleet limped toward the edge of human space, Kethvar made his final report. Classification update: Homo sapiens. Threat level: absolute. Recommendation: avoid at all costs unless seeking alliance. Special note: subject species displays maximum pack-bonding behavior combined with maximum protective aggression. They are exactly as dangerous as they are kind.